Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. I know what you're thinking. I'm dressed in clothes a little different than I normally would wear. The past couple of videos I have made a Majora's Mask Mempo and a Spider-Man 2099, and I thought I would take it just one step further, give you another variation to this same template by adding a little bit more to it. So we're going to bulk it out not only on the front end but also on the sides and make something completely different. Add a little bit of lights to it, grunge it up a little bit, and maybe give myself a futuristic look. So that's the game plan. So today we are going to make a futuristic Mempo. Let's get to building. This build starts out just like the previous two. You need to cut out the template that is provided for free in the description of this video. Cut it out and trace it onto your materials. I am using 6mm EVA foam. Put contact cement on all the edges and start to assemble the respirator. I always start by closing up the large darts, then using the registration marks, line up the pieces together. If you decide to make this build or your own variation of it, please tag me in the post so I can see your handiwork. It makes me feel pretty good when I see other people putting my templates to good use and letting others know where you got it. Alright, now on to the new stuff. This build has a lot of new pieces to it. We will start with the ear covers. I am making mine out of some 4mm What the Foam from Cosplay Apprentice. I wanted these to be a little sturdier than the rest of the parts because of the strain on the strapping and the tubing that's going to come later. I show you here how to do a 45-degree inward cut, which is marked with a blue line on my templates, and a 45-degree outward cut, which is marked green. So that my seams on the earpieces don't pull apart, I heat up the pieces with my heat gun and bend them past the point of connecting. That way when it cools, the edges are actually pushing against each other rather than pulling. Contact cement the edges, and starting on any point of the circle, tack the strip of foam around. The mouth filter on the front starts by connecting the 4 side pieces together, then positioning it where you want it. I figured out that attaching the bottom up worked best for me. The little slats on my vent are just some 6mm EVA cut into small strips with a 45-degree angle cut inward on one side. I did not template this piece out. You could just trim it and make it to fit as you work your way around. To add some more detail to my filters, I added some over the top of this, almost like a grill on the front of a Rolls Royce. This covers up any gaps that I may have in the pieces underneath, and it'll help me to hide the lights a little bit later where they come in and out. I added some detail to the brim of the nose to fill in a blank space and give more interest. This is EVA chainmail made by Ben Eadie. He sells it on his website Foam Armory. I will link more info about Ben in the descriptions. He was on Tested with Adam Savage showing off his creation a while back. He was nice enough to send me a sample to test out. It's pretty simple to assemble. You just bend over the ends with circles on them and push them through the next row of circles and work your way up until you get a piece the size you want. To make the chainmail lay flat, I hit it with a heat gun, then I used a couple 1-2-3 blocks to weigh it down as it cooled, and I worked my way down the piece. I'm going to use the back side of the chainmail, which has a totally different look, as my inlay. So I mark out a space and cut out the panel. I also ended up doing this on my ears too for an added detail. Then I just super glued the mail on the inside. Part of making a piece look a little more authentic is to add layers of detail. So I went in with various sizes of foam strips and added extra panels, seams, raised areas for tubes, etc. I also used my Dremel to plunge in some faux rivets all over the place. Now time for 2 coats of Plasti-Dip. I decided to go with some bright colors, but then also know that I was going to heavily dirty them up to make up my pretend dystopia. I used some Plat Effects acrylic paint to lay down the base coats. Because I was painting light onto dark, it took 2 coats to cover it how I wanted. Then to dirty it up, I used some brown and black Plat Effects to get in all the grooves and push some grit on my mask. This next step may be a little sketchy. I didn't like how clean the tube was, so I decided to set it on fire to scorch the outside up a bit. I don't know that I'd necessarily recommend doing this. You could probably spray paint it or something, but if you do decide to, be careful. Do it at your own risk. I would recommend doing it outside. Wear a respirator and some protective gloves. The smell is horrible and this stuff gets hot fast. I'm going to be pushing EL wire through it here in a minute. This is the EL wire I was talking about. I bought a big pack of various colors on Amazon with battery packs. Now I'm simply going to weave it all around the mask. I had to cut out an access point at the chin and the nose behind the vent to pull pieces through. When I got towards the end of the line, I hot glued it down on the edges of the chainmail so that it would glow in the recesses also. course, the last step is adding my 1-inch elastic banding on the back of the earpieces to keep it on my face. I glue some small pieces of foam over the top of the elastic to lock it into place. And we are finished. Here is the end result. I think it turned out pretty cool. It does have lights in it. They are relatively bright. Even with the lights on, I can see them. Even with studio lights on, I can see them pretty well. I ran those EL wires through this big tube 3 times. And then on the inside, as you can kind of see there, I put it just on the outside perimeter so that it'll pick up on Ben Eadie's chainmail and give a glowing effect on the cheeks when you wear it. I really like the way it turned out. I don't really put a lot of lights in a lot of things, and trying to get stuff to fit in there was a little difficult. Trying to get them to fit through these narrow tubes was definitely a pain, but I think it was well worth it. Maybe you'll try and make one of these or make a variation of your own and share it with me, and maybe impress me quite a bit. A couple of you already have. Maybe you'll get some.
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these and tell them, much props. So the little battery pack just slides into your shirt. You put that on. Yeah, put your hood on. You tell Alexa to turn off the studio lights.
Okay.
You change your voice a little bit.
And now it's time to fade into darkness. Peace out.